Palm Sunday, and it is also called Passion Sunday. Palm Sunday because we hold in our hands palms and say, Hosanna to the King of David. And then Passion Sunday, dear friends, is a procession into the sin city of Jerusalem. The whole life of Jesus from the beginning till the end was a procession. People followed him. He healed people, he forgave people, he worked miracles, he multiplied bread, he blessed the children. But then there was this procession had to be culminated. And how it culminated? In the city of sin, because Jerusalem was the center of so many sins. And Jesus, as he was triumphantly entering into Jerusalem, what he does, he pulls upon himself the sinfulness of humanity. And he is attacked from every angle possible. Psychologically, morally, spiritually, physically. They mock him, they strike him, they spit on him, they put on him a crown of thorns, they strip him and tell all sorts of lies. But then what does he do? He swallows the entire sinfulness of mankind and he fights sin with the weapons he has. Let us analyze now. I have picked up 7 sins. 7 sins that usually we never consider them as sins. You know, very often sinfulness is for us what? Like going against the 10 commandments very often. And very often for people, sinfulness is not going for Sunday Mass. Or could be sinfulness is committing adultery. All these things are sins. But I have picked from this gospel passage, dear friends, some important aspects that happen in our daily life, but then perhaps we do not recognize them as sins. The first one, taken from verse 21, chapter 26, verse 21. Betrayal by Judas. What Judas does here? Betrays Jesus. He is close to Jesus, and that's why Jesus had entrusted with him to take care of the money. He had the treasure. He sits very close with Jesus at the Last Supper. He is the one who dips bread in the bowl of Jesus. He was so intimate. But then he betrays Jesus for some lousy silver coins. Signifying, dear friends, betrayal is a very serious sin. Dante put 3 people in hell. Brutus, Cassius, who betrayed Cezar the Great, and then Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus. So betrayal is a very serious sin. Perhaps we do not understand how we betray people. Sometimes we can say that we are betrayed, or sometimes we betray others. Betrayal is a very serious sin that Jesus suffered this agony because Judas, whom he valued so much as his close disciple, betrayed him. Then we come to the second sin. Here Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane praying, sweating blood. He was looking to accomplish Father's will, and he prayed to the Father, let this chalice go away from me, not my will but thine be done. Jesus had taken his close 3 disciples to the Garden of Gethsemane from verse 40 and onwards. Here what happens? These 3 disciples sleep when Jesus wants their company so desperately. These disciples sleep. They are totally indifferent, as if nothing is happening. And here we have to refer it to ourselves. Dear friends, very often in our lives, there is a kind of spiritual sloth. Laziness. According to the statistics, if we live 70 years or 80 years, 23% of our life we spend in sleeping. 16% of our life we watch television. 5% of our life we keep on eating and drinking. And for spiritual life, we give only 0.5%. 0.5%. That is what we call laziness, because we don't want any kind of spirituality in our lives. We want many other things. That's what happened to the disciples. They were sleeping. Then we come to verse 51, violence. They come to arrest Jesus with clubs and swords. Jesus, who preached always, those who slap you on your right cheek, show them also your left cheek. Those who force you to walk 1 mile, walk with them 2 miles. Those who take your coat, give them your cloak too. Pray for your enemies. Jesus was always in the temple. There was no need for the people to come with clubs and swords. Violence. And when Jesus was arrested, what happens? One of the disciples draws out the sword to cut the ear, symbolic to say that people, when they are into violence, they don't want any dialogue. Their ears are cut. They don't want to listen. There is no listening. There is a gang warfare here. And what Jesus says, put your sword back into this place. If you take the sword, you will be destroyed by sword. Dear friends, violence in our daily lives, do we recognize it? Yeah. Through gossip, spoiling the name of others. We try to put down others. Lot of violence. We need not think about only wars happening in the world, but there is a lot of violence. We try to belittle our own neighbors, our family members. There is a kind of violence in our family, perhaps in our parish too. We never know. When someone does good, we try to put that person down. Violence, secret violence. Then the fourth sin that we see here, the disciples, once they saw that Jesus was arrested, they ran away. They leave him. All of them run away. That was the moment the disciples had to stand by Jesus, protect him. This is from 56 verse onwards. Disciples dispersed. They ran away from Jesus. This is what we call spiritual cowardice. We run away from our responsibility. We run away from our beloved people. We run away from the things that are entrusted with us. We do not want to take the responsibility. We would like to leave others as orphans. What is important is my security. I need to run. It is a dangerous situation right now to be with Jesus. They have arrested. They will arrest us too. But they had to be faithful disciples to be with Jesus. Let us refer it to our own lives, dear friends. How many times we have deserted our own near and dear ones, with whom we had to be. We had the responsibility of being with our loved ones. But have we deserted them? Have we run away from them? This is what we call spiritual cowardice. And then the fifth sin, Jesus is brought in front of the Sanhedrin. And this is from verse 60 onwards. Here all the disciples ran away. Pharisees and scribes bring out all kinds of lies possible against Jesus. They say, this man who said, I will rebuild this temple, I will destroy this temple. He walked on Sabbath. He said so many things, and therefore he must be crucified. They tried to bring and level against him all kinds of lies possible. Dear friends, lies hurt. Lies really hurt. We would like to be saved, and therefore we keep on saying lies. We keep on saying things that are not true. And consequently, we would like to run away, at the same time offend or pain the loved ones around us by telling all sorts of lies. And that's why one of the 10 commandments, bearing false witness, very serious sin. And now we come to the sixth sin. And this is taken from verse 71 onwards. Peter, who was chosen by Christ to be the rock on which the church he would build, he had the keys. But then what does he do? He said, I will not go away from you, Lord. I will go with you and die. But this guy Once he sensed that people were pointing a finger at him, oh, you are also from among them. Your accent betrays you. Peter swears and says, I do not know him. I do not know him. I do not belong to them. And at last he realizes that he had denied Jesus 3 times. Of course, he bitterly weeps for his sin. Denial, dear friends, in our daily lives. When we deny the truth, when we deny our loved ones, when we deny certain things, denial of people around us is a very serious sin. Perhaps we do not consider it as sin. Denial of true things that happen around us, but I deny it for my own advantage. For my own advantage so that I may be saved. I continue to deny. The last one, which is taken from chapter 27, verse 5 onwards. Here Judas is totally desperate. He comes with the 30 coins, throws them into the temple and goes away. What does he do? He hangs himself. This is human desperation. You know, this should never happen to us. Jesus could have forgiven Judas, but then he doubted forgiveness from Jesus. He became so desperate, went and hanged himself. Some people would say, this is a sin against the Holy Spirit. Because even God himself is not able to help us when we want to take a drastic action against ourselves. In Christianity, there is nothing called desperation, dear friends. No matter what kind of sin we commit, there is always forgiveness. Peter committed the same sin. He betrayed Jesus. All other disciples committed more or less the same sin, running away. They were cowards. But then Judas, even though he betrayed Jesus, he could have asked for forgiveness. But he didn't. What did he do? He went and hanged himself. Here we find human dysfunction in full display in all these 7 sins. But then, Jesus does not give up. He had his weapons to fight. Like in the first reading, I allowed my face to be spit. I allowed my beard to be pulled out. I gave my face to be slapped. I gave my back to be struck. I was humiliated, mocked. I held my face like a flint because I knew the one who called me will defend me. Jesus pulled on himself all the sinfulness of humanity and carried it to Calvary. And when he was almost dying, what did he say? Father, forgive them. They do not know what they do. That is what redemption is. That is what Jesus defeating sin or swallowing it up and putting an end to sin. That is the sacrifice of the cross. Therefore, dear friends, when we look at the Passion Sunday, we can look at this Passion Sunday from different angles. But then this angle, when we look at it, the sinfulness of humanity, Jesus destroys it, swallowing it up, bearing it up, dying on the cross and redeeming the humanity. Let us ask the Lord during this Holy Eucharist that we may open our eyes, that we may accompany Jesus during this week, that we may follow him to Calvary, where we all will experience redemption of our sinfulness, because Jesus came to call back the sinners. Kindly rise, we close.